And now to a large recall from General Motors. It involves 600,000 vehicles whose V8 engines can fail without warning.
Imagine paying almost six figures for a brand new American truck. Not a used truck, not an auction truck, not something with 200,000 miles and a questionable past. A brand new Chevy Silverado, GMC Sierra, Tahoe, Suburban, Yukon, or Escalade. You walk into the dealership because you want the big engine. You want the power. You want the sound. You want that old-school American V8 confidence. And for decades, that was the promise. A GM V8 was supposed to mean strength. It was supposed to mean towing power. It was supposed to mean highway confidence. It was supposed to mean an engine that could work hard for years. But now, for thousands of owners, that promise has turned into something else. A sudden knock, a flashing warning light, a loss of power on the highway, a tow truck, a service department, and one sentence no truck owner wants to hear: your engine may need to be replaced. This is not just another small recall story. This is one of the biggest trust problems General Motors has faced in years. At the center of it is the 6.2-liter L87 V8. The engine GM placed inside some of its most expensive and most important vehicles. These are not cheap cars. These are not experimental economy models. These are premium trucks and SUVs that families, contractors, business owners, and loyal GM buyers spent serious money on. And now many of those same buyers are asking one simple question: how did GM get its most important V8 so wrong? The engine that was supposed to be the hero. The 6.2-liter V8 was not supposed to be a problem. It was supposed to be the engine people wanted. When buyers chose it, they were not just buying transportation. They were buying the top engine, the premium option, the one with more power, more confidence, and more status. For a Silverado or Sierra owner, the 6.2 meant you did not settle. For a Tahoe or Suburban owner, it meant you bought the serious version. For a Yukon Denali or Escalade owner, it meant luxury with muscle. But then the stories started building. Engines failing with little warning. Owners reporting knocking noises, vehicles losing power, engines seizing. Some failures happening at mileage so low it almost sounds impossible. And that is what makes this crisis feel so serious. If an engine fails after years of abuse, people may blame maintenance. If it fails after 200,000 miles, people may call it normal wear. But when expensive vehicles start suffering catastrophic engine failures early in life, the problem starts looking much bigger. It stops being an owner problem. It becomes an engineering problem, a manufacturing problem, a quality control problem, and finally, a trust problem. The number that changed everything. When NHTSA began looking into the issue, the scale was shocking. This was not about a few angry owners online. This was not one viral video. This was not a handful of unlucky engines. The investigation looked at hundreds of thousands of GM vehicles. Then came the recall. Nearly 600,000 U.S. vehicles were pulled into the issue, including popular models like the Silverado 1500, Sierra 1500, Tahoe, Suburban, Yukon, and Cadillac Escalade. The suspected problem involved internal engine components, connecting rods and crankshafts, parts deep inside the engine that must be manufactured correctly. And when those parts are not right, the result can be brutal. Because an engine does not slowly forgive a bad bearing or a damaged crankshaft. It gets hot. It loses lubrication. Metal touches metal. The engine starts knocking. Then, in the worst cases, it destroys itself. That is why owners are so angry. They did not buy a cheap vehicle and expect to gamble. They bought one of the most expensive vehicles GM sells. And instead of confidence, some got uncertainty every time they turned the key. The recall fix that created more questions. Now here is where the story becomes even more controversial. When GM created the recall remedy, dealers were told to inspect affected engines. If the engine showed signs of damage, it could be repaired or replaced. But if it passed inspection, the vehicle could receive higher viscosity oil, 0W40 instead of the original thinner oil. On paper, thicker oil can provide a stronger protective film at operating temperature. But many owners and mechanics immediately ask the obvious question: is this actually fixing the problem? Because if the root issue is damaged internal components, manufacturing debris, crankshaft surface problems, or connecting rod defects, then oil may only be a bandage. It may reduce stress, it may slow damage, it may help some engines survive longer. But does it erase the original defect? That is the question. And the reason people are worried is simple. There have been reports of engines still failing after recall work. That is the nightmare scenario. Because when a recall fix does not fully restore trust, the owner is left in a terrible position. They are told the vehicle passed. They are told the remedy was done. They are told the truck is safe to drive. But in the back of their mind, they are still thinking, what if it happens to me next week? And that fear is poison for a truck brand. A truck is supposed to feel dependable. A family SUV is supposed to feel safe. A premium Escalade or Denali is supposed to feel solid. Once the driver stops trusting the engine, the entire vehicle feels different. The real cost is bigger than the repair. A failed engine is not just a mechanical problem. It becomes a life problem. Imagine your Tahoe is sitting at the dealer for weeks. You still have a payment. You still have insurance. You still need to take kids to school. You still need to go to work. You still need transportation. Maybe the dealer has no loaner. Maybe the replacement engine is delayed. Maybe the service department is overwhelmed. Maybe you keep calling and nobody gives you a straight answer. That is where customers lose patience because the owner did nothing wrong. They bought the vehicle. They followed the maintenance schedule. They trusted the brand. And now they are paying for a truck or SUV they cannot use. This is why the GM V8 issue feels bigger than a recall notice. It hits people emotionally. A vehicle is not just metal. For many families, it is safety, work, status, routine, and freedom. When that vehicle becomes unreliable, the customer feels trapped. And when the vehicle costs $70,000, $90,000, or even more than $100,000, that frustration becomes anger. Why this hurts GM more than a normal recall? Every automaker has recalls. Toyota has recalls. Ford has recalls. Honda has recalls. Hyundai has recalls. A recall alone does not destroy a brand. What hurts GM here is the type of engine involved. This is a V8. For General Motors, the V8 is not just another engine. It is part of the company's identity. GM built decades of loyalty on small block V8 power. Silverado buyers trusted it. Sierra buyers trusted it. Suburban families trusted it. Escalade customers paid extra for it. So when the V8 becomes the weak point, the damage is not only technical, it is symbolic. It makes buyers wonder if the old GM confidence is fading. Because if GM cannot get the V8 right in its most profitable trucks and SUVs, what does that say about quality control? That is the uncomfortable question. And it becomes even more frustrating because GM clearly knows how to build good engines. The 2.7-liter Turbomax has earned respect from many truck owners. It is a 4-cylinder, yes, but it produces strong torque and has shown that smart engineering can make a smaller engine work in a truck. Then there is the Corvette V8 world, where GM has built engines that enthusiasts respect deeply. So this is not a story about GM having no engineering talent. That is what makes it worse. GM can build great engines. The question is why this truck V8 program became such a mess. The badge problem. There is also something symbolic happening on the dealership lot. For years, big engine badges were a source of pride. A 6.2 badge told the world you bought the serious engine. It was marketing. It was status. It was confidence. But now buyers are noticing something different. Less spotlight, less celebration, less confidence around the 6.2. And whether that is intentional or not, the timing looks terrible. Because when a company becomes quieter about an engine it once promoted proudly, customers notice. They start asking, why is this engine not being celebrated anymore? Why is inventory harder to find? Why are dealers steering people toward other options? Why does it feel like nobody wants to talk about the 6.2? That silence becomes its own message. And in the car business, silence can be louder than advertising. The 2027 question. Now GM is preparing its next generation of V8 engines. That sounds like good news. A fresh engine family could give GM a chance to reset the story, repair trust, and move beyond the L87 crisis. But buyers should be cautious. A new engine is not automatically a better engine. It has to prove itself. The lesson from this crisis is clear. Numbers on a press release do not matter if quality control fails in the real world. Horsepower is exciting. Torque is exciting. New architecture is exciting. But reliability is earned after thousands of owners drive thousands of miles in real conditions. Towing, heat, cold starts, long highway trips, stop-and-go traffic, family vacations, job sites. That is the real test. The question for GM is not whether they can announce a new V8. The question is whether they can build it with the care, consistency, and quality control that truck owners expect. Because after this crisis, buyers will not accept blind promises. They will want proof. What buyers should do right now. If you are shopping for a GM truck or SUV today, do not buy emotionally. Do not buy just because the monthly payment looks good. Do not buy just because the truck looks clean. Do not buy just because the salesman says they fixed that. Check everything. Check the VIN. Check recall status. Ask which engine is inside. Ask whether recall work was performed. Ask whether the engine was inspected or replaced. Get everything in writing. If you are considering a 6.2-liter L87 truck or SUV, understand the risk clearly. This does not mean every engine will fail, but it does mean the failure pattern is serious enough that buyers should not ignore it. If you already own one, pay attention to warning signs: knocking, ticking, low oil pressure, sudden rough running, loss of power, metal in the oil. Check engine lights. Do not wait. Document everything. Keep service records. Report problems early. And if the same issue keeps happening, learn your warranty rights and lemon law options in your state. Because with an engine failure this expensive, paperwork matters. Final message. The GM V8 crisis is not just about metal parts. It is about trust. People trusted the badge. They trusted the V8. They trusted the dealership. They trusted the idea that a premium truck or SUV would protect their money, not put it at risk. And that is why this story matters. Because when a $100,000 vehicle loses its engine, it is not just a breakdown. It is a broken promise. GM still has the ability to build great engines. That is not the question. The real question is whether GM has learned the right lesson. Not just how to change the oil, not just how to inspect failed engines, not just how to move on to the next generation, but how to rebuild confidence with the people who already paid. Because for truck buyers, power is important, but trust is everything. And once trust breaks, no badge, no commercial, and no horsepower number can fix it overnight. So before you buy a GM truck or SUV, do your research. Because the most expensive problem is not always the one you see on the window sticker. Sometimes it is hiding deep inside the engine. Have you owned a GM 6.2 V8? Did your engine fail? Did the recall help? Or did the problem come back? Drop your story in the comments, because real owner experiences may save someone else from making a very expensive mistake. And if you want honest breakdowns before you spend your money, hit the like button, subscribe, and stay informed. Because in today's truck market, the badge may sell the vehicle, but the engine decides whether you regret buying it.